compound was alive with the sound of celebration. Aduni's shrill laughter pierced through the evening air as she displayed her rounded belly like a trophy, surrounded by the other wives and their children. "Look at our husband's fruitful wife," one of them called out, raising her palm wine in mock salute. Elena pressed herself against the wall of her hut, grinding pepper with trembling hands. Each word was a knife to her heart. 5 years! Aduni's voice grew louder, more cruel. 5 years, and Elena's womb remains as barren as the desert in dry season. Perhaps the ancestors are telling us something. The women erupted in knowing laughter. "Maybe she should try praying harder," another voice suggested with forced sympathy. "Or perhaps she's cursed." Elena's pestle slipped from her fingers, clattering to the ground. The laughter stopped abruptly as all eyes turned to her. Aduni's smile was venomous. "Oh, Elena, we didn't see you there. We were just discussing the blessings of motherhood, something you wouldn't understand." The words shattered something inside Elena's chest. Without a word, she dropped everything and ran, pushing past the circle of women whose laughter followed her like a curse into the darkness. The path to the river was treacherous in the moonlight, but Elena's feet knew every root and stone. This was where she'd come as a child to cry, to dream, to hope. Tonight, she came to beg. She collapsed on the muddy bank, her sobs echoing across the water. "Please," she whispered to the darkness, her voice raw with desperation. "Any spirit who can hear me, I just want a child. I'll give anything. My life, my soul, anything." The water began to ripple, though the night was still. Elena's breath caught as phosphorescent light danced beneath the surface, growing brighter, more intense. Then she rose. Water cascaded from scales that shimmered like black pearls. The mermaid's beauty was terrible, and ancient eyes that held the depths of oceans, hair that flowed like liquid night, and a smile that promised both miracles and doom. "Your tears are sweet with desperation," the creature said, her voice like waves against stone. "I know what burns in your heart, daughter of earth." Elena scrambled backward, terror and hope warring in her chest. "Please, I just want to be a mother. The shame, the mockery, I can't bear it anymore." The mermaid glided closer, her scaled tail cutting through the water with hypnotic grace. "I can give you what you seek, but my gifts are never simple, never free. I'll pay any price. Any price." The creature's laugh was like shells breaking against rocks. "Then listen well. I will bless your womb with twins, 2 perfect daughters, identical in every way. But when you give birth, it must be here, by these sacred waters. And when they draw their first breath," Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. "What?" "One stays with you on the land, one comes with me to the depths." The mermaid's claws traced patterns in the water that glowed and faded. "The one I take will be loved and cherished in my realm. She will lack for nothing, but there is a condition that must never be broken. Tell me, they must never meet, never see each other, never know of each other's existence." The mermaid's eyes blazed with ancient power. "If they do, if their eyes find each other across the realms, if they touch, if they learn the truth of their divided soul, what will happen? The omen of the sundered soul will awaken. One must die so the other can truly live. The choice will be theirs to make, but make it they must." The creature's voice dropped to a whisper that seemed to come from the depths of the earth. "Do you still accept my bargain?" Elena thought of Aduni's cruel smile, of her husband's disappointed sighs, of the empty cradle that mocked her every day. I accept. The mermaid's claw shot forward, slicing across Elena's palm. As her blood dripped into the sacred waters, power surged through her body like lightning, and she felt life quickening in her womb. It is done. Remember, when your time comes, you must birth them here. I will be waiting. 9 months later, Elena's labor pains began at sunset. Following the ancient pact, she made her way to the river alone, each step more difficult than the last. She had told her family she was visiting a distant relative, unable to explain the real reason she had to give birth by the cursed waters. The contractions came faster as she reached the riverbank, and she collapsed on the muddy shore, gripping a fallen branch for support. The water began to glow as the mermaid rose from the depths, more magnificent and terrifying than Elena remembered. The birth was swift but agonizing. 2 perfect daughters slipped into the world within moments of each other, their cries piercing the night air. Elena held both babies against her chest, tears of joy and sorrow mingling on her face. "They're so beautiful," she whispered, memorizing every detail of their identical faces. "Yes, they are," the mermaid said softly. "But now I must take what was promised." Before Elena could protest, the creature had gently lifted the second twin from her arms. The baby's cries immediately stopped, replaced by peaceful gurgling as if she recognized her true mother. "Please," Elena sobbed, reaching desperately for her daughter. "Just let me hold her a moment longer." The mermaid's expression softened slightly. "She will be loved, Elena, I swear this to you, but she belongs to the water now." She looked down at the child with something like tenderness. "I will call her Nia. And the one you keep?" Elena looked at the remaining baby in her arms, her heart breaking. "Kemi. Her name is Kemi. Remember the pact," the mermaid warned as she began to sink back into the depths. "They must never meet." As the mermaid disappeared, Elena found herself alone with one baby, exhausted and bleeding. She tried to stand, but her legs gave way. Panic set in. How would she make it home in this condition? Just then, she heard the sound of bicycle wheels on the forest path. A young fisherman named Tunda appeared, his bicycle loaded with nets and the day's catch. "Madam," he exclaimed, dropping his bicycle and rushing to her side. "What are you doing here? Are you hurt?" Elena clutched Kemi protectively. I need to get home. Please help me." Tunde didn't ask questions. He could see she had just given birth and was in distress. "Of course. Here, let me help you onto my bicycle." He gently helped Elena onto the back of his bicycle, making sure she and the baby were secure. "Hold tight, madam. I'll get you home safely." As they rode through the forest paths, Elena holding Kemi close and trying not to think about the daughter she'd left behind, Tunde chatted cheerfully about his successful fishing trip. "Such a blessed day. My nets were full, and now I get to help bring new life safely home. Truly, the spirits are smiling on us today." If only he knew the true cost of this blessed day, Elena thought, but she managed to smile and thank him for his kindness as he delivered her safely to her compound. 18 years passed like a dream. Elena raised Kemi with fierce love and constant fear, always watching, always worrying. She forbade her daughter from swimming, from going near the river, from even looking at her reflection too long in still water. "Why, Mama?" Kemi would ask. "Why are you so afraid of water?" "Just promise me," Elena would plead. "Promise me you'll stay away." But promises made in childhood have a way of breaking. Meanwhile, in the underwater kingdom, Nia grew into a beautiful young woman, curious about the world above the waves. Yemoja, the mermaid who had claimed her, loved her as fiercely as any mother could, but she too lived in constant fear. "The surface world is dangerous," she would tell Nia whenever her daughter gazed upward with longing. "Humans are cruel creatures who would destroy you if they knew what you were." But on the night of their 18th birthday, both girls began to dream. Kemi woke gasping, her nightgown soaked with sweat. In her dream, she had been drowning, but not dying breathing underwater, surrounded by coral and strange, beautiful fish. And there had been a voice calling her name from the depths. "Kemi, sister, find me." She sat up, her heart racing. Sister? She had no sister, but the dream felt more real than any memory. Miles away, deep beneath the river, Nia too woke from the same dream. She had walked on dry land, felt sun on her face, breathed air instead of water. And she had heard a voice calling to her. "Nia, sister, I'm here." Asterisk. Both girls found themselves drawn to the boundary between their worlds, Kemi to the river's edge, Nia to the shimmering barrier that separated her realm from the surface. For 3 nights, they dreamed the same dreams. For 3 days, they fought the growing compulsion to seek out the voice that called to them. On the 4th night, neither could resist any longer. Kemi slipped from her mother's hut like a shadow, her bare feet silent on the forest path. The moon was full, casting silver light across the river's surface. She had told herself she would only look, only stand at the edge and try to understand why this place called to her soul. But when she reached the water's edge, she saw her reflection, and her reflection was moving independently. The girl in the water had her face, her hair, her eyes, but she moved with fluid grace beneath the surface, reaching upward with desperate urgency. Their eyes met through the water, and Kemi felt something crack open in her chest, a completeness she had never known she was missing. Without thinking, she plunged into the water, diving deeper than she had ever gone before. But instead of river bottom, she found herself passing through a shimmering barrier into an underwater grotto filled with coral gardens and dancing light. Nia swam toward her frantically, and when their hands touched, both girls gasped as memories flooded their minds, flashes of the same moment of birth, the same desperate mother, but seen from 2 different perspectives. "Sister," they whispered in unison, the word feeling both foreign and perfectly right. They spent the night talking in the magical space between worlds, sharing 18 years of separate lives, marveling at their identical faces and opposite natures. Kemi, who feared water but longed for adventure. Nia, who had never walked on land but dreamed of feeling earth beneath her feet. "We have to meet again," Nia said, as dawn approached. "I need to know more about the surface world, about our mother." "Tomorrow night," Kemi agreed, though something cold twisted in her stomach. "Same place." As they parted, neither noticed the ancient symbols glowing briefly in the water around them, the first sign that the omen had begun. Elena woke to find Kemi's bed empty and wet footprints leading from their hut. Her blood turned to ice as she followed the trail to the river, arriving just in time to see her daughter emerge from the water, her eyes bright with wonder and secret. "Kemi!" she screamed, grabbing her daughter roughly. "What were you doing in there?" "Mama, you won't believe what did you see?" Elena shook her daughter desperately. "Tell me exactly what you saw." From the depths came the sound of turbulent water and an anguished cry. Imoja broke the surface, her usually serene face twisted with fury and terror. "It has begun," she said, her voice carrying across the water. "They have found each other." Elena's legs gave out. She collapsed on the muddy bank, pulling Kemi close. "Number, no, this cannot be happening. I kept my promise. I kept her away." "Mama, what's wrong?" Kemi struggled against her mother's grip. "Who is that? Why does she look so afraid?" But Elena was already dragging her daughter away from the water, muttering frantic prayers and denials. In the depth, Imoja held Nia close, her own heart breaking. "You must never return to that place," she commanded. "Promise me." "But mother, she's mine." "Promise me." But both mothers knew it was too late. The bond that had been severed 18 years ago was reforming, growing stronger with each passing moment. And with it came the ancient curse that would demand its price. Despite their mother's desperate attempts to keep them apart, the twins found ways to meet. The pull between them was magnetic, irresistible. Night after night, they would slip away to their secret place between worlds, sharing stories, dreams, and the deep ache of finally feeling complete. Kemi taught Nia about life on land, about markets and festivals, about the warmth of sun on skin and the feeling of grass between toes. Nia showed Kemi the wonders of her underwater realm, coral castles, schools of luminescent fish, and the freedom of swimming without ever needing to breathe. "I wish I could walk with you," Nia said one night, her tail fin creating patterns in the sand of their underwater meeting place. "I wish I could breathe water like you," Kemi replied. "We're like two halves of the same person." They laughed together, identical laughs that harmonized perfectly. But their joy was shadowed by their mother's increasing desperation and the strange dreams that had begun to plague them, both visions of darkness rising from the deep, of ancient powers stirring, of a choice that would tear them apart forever. On their 20th meeting, Nia arrived at their secret place to find Kemi waiting with someone else, a young fisherman named Dayo, whom she had rescued from drowning years before. "This is my sister," Kemi said simply, as if that explained everything. Dayo stared at Nia through the water barrier, his eyes wide with wonder and disbelief. "You're a mermaid," Nia finished, her cheeks flushing. She had never felt self-conscious about her tail before, but under this young man's amazed gaze, she suddenly wished she had legs. What followed was the strangest courtship in history. Night after night, Dayo would come with Kemi to meet Nia at the boundary between worlds. He would tell her about his life as a fisherman, about the village beyond the forest, about dreams and hopes that stretched beyond the water. And Nia found herself falling desperately in love with a man she could never truly touch, never walk beside, never share a life with. "I would give anything to be human," she confessed to Kemi one night, tears streaming down her face. "Just for one day, to feel the earth beneath my feet, to dance with him under the stars." Kemi's heart ached for her sister. Maybe there's a way. Maybe if we ask who? The same creature who tore us apart? Nia's voice was bitter. "She's already taken everything from us." But Kemi was determined. The next day, she confronted her mother with a fury that had been building for months. "Tell me about my sister," Kemi demanded, cornering Elena in their hut. Elena's face went white. "You have no sister. Don't lie to me anymore." Kemi slammed her hand on the wooden table. "I know about the pact. I know what you did. Tell me everything, or I'll go to the river and never come back." The threat broke Elena's resolve. Through tears and desperate sobs, she told Kemi everything about Aduni's mockery, about the desperate bargain, about the mermaid's conditions, and the terrible price of their meeting. The omen of the sundered soul, Elena whispered. If you continue to meet, if your bond grows stronger, one of you will have to die so the other can live. It's the price of a divided soul trying to become whole again. Kemi staggered backward, her world spinning. You gave one of your daughters away to a sea creature for your own selfish pride? I was desperate. I couldn't bear the shame anymore. But I've regretted it every day since. Does she know? Does Nia know what she really is? Elena shook her head miserably. The mermaid promised to raise her as her own. She probably thinks... Kemi didn't wait to hear more. She ran to the river, her heart breaking for her sister who didn't even know she was human, who had been living a lie her entire life. You're human, Kemi said without preamble when Nia appeared in their meeting place. Like me. We're both human. Nia's world shattered. Through tears and rage, Kemi told her everything their mother had revealed. How they were both born human. How Nia had been traded away like a possession. How she had been lied to about her very nature for 20 years. I'm not even really her daughter, Nia sobbed, her tail fin thrashing in distress. I'm just a bargaining chip, a price that was paid. You're my sister, Kemi said fiercely. You're my twin, my other half. That's all that matters. But Nia's devastation ran deeper than Kemi could understand. Everything she had believed about herself, about her place in the world, had been a lie. And worse, she was human, but trapped forever in a form that could never be with the man she loved. There has to be a way, she whispered. A way for me to become what I really am. As if summoned by their desperation, the water around them began to glow. Ancient symbols appeared in the sand, pulsing with ominous light. The omen had fully awakened. That night, the river began to boil. Fish died by the thousands, floating to the surface with milky eyes. The water turned black as midnight, and from its depths came a sound like the earth screaming. Both Elena and Yemoja appeared at the water's edge, their faces etched with terror. It has begun, Yemoja said, her voice hollow. The omen of the sundered soul. The ancient magic is demanding its price. What does it want? Elena cried. Balance. Completion. A soul that was divided must choose to become whole. Yemoja's eyes found Kemi and Nia, who clung to each other desperately. One must die so the other can live as she was meant to. No, Kemi said fiercely. We won't choose. We'll both refuse. Then you will both die, Yemoja replied sadly, and the corruption will spread. The river will die, then the forest, then the village. The omen will consume everything until the debt is paid. Around them, trees began to wither. Animals fled in panic. The very air grew thick with malevolent energy. How long do we have? Nia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Until the next full moon, 3 days. For 2 days and nights, the twins searched desperately for another way. They consulted village elders, sought out wise women, even attempted to bargain with other water spirits. But the answer was always the same. A soul divided against its nature creates a wound in the fabric of existence. One ancient priestess told them, the only way to heal it is through willing sacrifice. One must choose death so the other can live in the form she was meant to inhabit. On the final night, as the moon rose full and terrible above the dying river, Kemi made her decision. I know what I have to do, Kemi told Nia as they met for what both knew would be the last time. Number Nia grabbed her sister's hands desperately. There has to be another way. You love him, Kemi said simply. You dream of being human, of walking on land, of the life you were meant to live. I've lived that life for 20 years. It's your turn now. Kemi, please. You were the one who was sacrificed, Kemi continued, tears streaming down her face. You were the one who was lied to, who never got to know our mother, who never got to be human. If one of us has to die, it should be me. I've had the life you deserved, but I can't live without you. You're my other half, my sister, my... You carry me with you? Kemi whispered, pressing her forehead against Nia's. Every step you take on human legs, every breath you take in human lungs, every moment you spend with Dio, I'll be there with you. The water around them began to glow with ancient magic, responding to Kemi's willing sacrifice. As the power built, Kemi felt herself growing lighter, more translucent. I love you, sister, she whispered. I love you too, Nia sobbed. And then Kemi was gone, her essence flowing into Nia like water into water, completing the soul that had been divided for 20 years. Nia gasped as her tail began to shimmer and change, scales melting away to reveal human legs. She kicked desperately toward the surface, her new lungs burning for air. She broke through to find Dio waiting for her, his eyes wide with wonder and grief. He had watched everything, understanding without being told what Kemi had sacrificed for her sister's happiness. She's gone, Nia sobbed as he pulled her from the water, marveling at the feeling of earth beneath her feet for the first time. No, Dio said gently, helping her stand on shaking legs. She's right here. He touched the place over Nia's heart. She'll always be with you. Elena emerged from the forest then, her face a mixture of joy and sorrow. She had lost one daughter, but gained another one, who carried the memories and love of both. My daughter, she whispered, embracing Nia for the first time. The river began to clear, life returning to its waters. The omen had been satisfied. The soul was whole again, though the price had been terrible. Years later, when Nia and Dio had married and had children of their own, she would tell them stories of their aunt, Kemi, the brave sister who had sacrificed everything for love. And sometimes, when the moonlight hit the water just right, the children swore they could see a familiar figure swimming in the depths, watching over them with loving eyes. For love, true love, never really dies. It just changes form, flowing from one heart to another like water seeking its proper level until at last all souls find their way home.